Hi, second graders. Let's do a quick review before you start decorating your clay piece. First of all, I want you to think about what happened to your clay since the last time you saw it. So, the last time that you saw your clay, it was in the wetware stage. So, that means that all those little teeny tiny microscopic rocks were surrounded by water. They were very movable. You could squish them, rip them apart, stick them back together. And that's the stage that we like to build in. Then I let your clay piece dry out. After it dried out, kind of like some of these pieces over here, I stuck them inside of the kiln. This is what the kiln looks like, if you can remember, in the back of the classroom. And this is what it looks like on the inside of my kiln. And there's a little pocket way down there. So the kiln is definitely like a stove or an oven, except it gets much, much, much hotter. So your stove or your oven at home is great at keeping temperatures at a certain temperature, but my kiln gets hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter until at about 2000 degrees it shuts off. And that's very, very hot and dangerous. So that's where what happens inside of the kiln, those little teeny tiny clay pieces actually melt together, and now your clay is changed forever. So before it went into the kiln, it was gray in color, and after it comes out of the kiln, it's white because that's the type of clay that we used. This is what it looks like when I'm firing in the kiln. Um, all the pieces in there were glowing orange like the coals on a fire. And we call it firing because back before electricity, that's what people used, was fire. Still, artists today will use fire, but in my classroom, that's not safe. So we use electricity instead, and it gets very, very hot. When it comes out, it's called bisque clay, and bisque is actually a French word that means to fire. And so if you can say bisque with me, then you've just said a French word. And when it's the bisqueware stage, it's decoration time. So you can glaze pieces, but this time, as a distance learner, I'm going to have you use watercolor paint instead, or tempera paint, or if you have acrylic paint, you could use that too. And that's what the next demonstration talks about. So whatever you choose to make, I would definitely, or whatever paint that you choose to have, I would definitely want to water it down a little bit. Watercolor paint is the perfect one, but you can also use food coloring mixed with some water. You could use tempera paint mixed with some water, or acrylic paint mixed with some water. And the reason why you want to mix it with water is because the paint dries so quickly that you want to make sure that you have a little extra water in there so you can spread it around. You really have an opportunity when you paint to be able to mix colors that are next to each other in the color wheel. So two colors that are right next to each other in these paint trays are a great way to work. And then when you're done with it, you can hang it. So because it's a pocket, it's not usually meant to be played with. It's meant for a decoration. So painting it is perfectly fine, because if you're not handling it, then the paint will stay on. But if you know that your pocket is going to get wet, or if you're going to play with it a lot, eventually the paint might wear off, or it could get kind of dirty looking. So I would get a clear um, spray or fixative that holds, that kind of seals in the paint. Otherwise, I think it's just fine the way it is. So watch the demonstration for the next steps of actually how to use the paint, and have fun, friends. Bye.